Hey, Michael Didier here, continuing our journey through Torah. I say through Torah, it's through Yasher as well, isn't it? Boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot to be learned from Yasher. You know, some of the things that's in Torah, dare I say, they might be misleading. You know, there are documents coming out of the Catholic Church now that that organization really has been taken down, and the documents that they've had are going to come to light. I got a hunch that we're going to see that Torah as we know it right now in some of our oldest translations has been, dare I say, fiddled with a bit. Remember, we talked about Jacob. You know, he is a focal point. He's Israel. When they were talking about them as a boy, 15 years old, Jacob, Esau. Jacob was the man of the field, you know, a great hunter. Jacob dwelt in tents. They make him sound like a sissy boy. They make it sound like Jacob stole the blessing. They make it sound like Jacob got the birthright suspiciously, but when we finally see what it says in Yasher, we begin to understand a little bit better picture, dare I say. The last time, well, actually 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, because we did, I think, miss a week, we talked about Jacob going north to Haran to find a woman. His father said, don't take a woman from Canaan. Remember, his brother Esau already had 2 women from Canaan, and they were a pain to his parents. So he sent Jacob away, all the way to Haran. He knew that Laban had 2 daughters. He was hoping to get one of them. He met Rachel on his way there, but on his way there, he was robbed, supposed to be killed. But Yehovah prevented him from being hurt. He had one thing left with him. I guess you could say 2 things: the clothes on his back and the rod of Elohim in his hands. You know what? It doesn't come very clear that he had this rod, but it's going to come out. We're going to see it. I don't think we'll see it today, but I think we're going to see it next week. He arrived in Haran in tears. When he saw Rachel, it said he wept. Why? Because he had nothing to give to Laban. We call him Laban. It's Laban, it's soft V, in exchange for a daughter. Well, we saw that he worked for, let me see here, 7 years for Rachel. And it seemed like just a few days. Happened pretty fast in Torah, this 7-year period. Within a few verses. So he was supposed to get a wife, but somehow ended up with Leah. Now it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, and he went to her. I wondered, was he drunk? How could he not know that he got Leah instead of Rachel, her twin? You know, sometimes I think we forget they're twins. Were they identical twins? That could make a difference. I know I married a twin. My children's mother is a twin. And boy, they look alike. They talk alike. I mean, I could easily tell them apart. But in the dark, it would be tough. How well did he know Rachel? I mean, he'd known her for 7 years. How did he make this mistake? Well, in Torah, it doesn't give us a clue. And then it goes on to say that Laban says it's not done so in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Well, why did he make the agreement that Jacob would work for 7 years and get Rachel if that was the custom of the country? No, there's a deeper understanding that we've got to get here. He knew that when Jacob worked for him, that he was blessed. He had only 2 daughters. He had several wives and concubines. And he only had 2 daughters when Jacob arrived. But in the 7-year period, the first 7 years that Jacob worked for Rachel and ended up getting Leah, Laban was blessed. Blessed in the field with sheep and goats and cattle. In his house, he was blessed, and in his family, he was blessed. He had sons born to him when Jacob was with him. He knew it and needed Jacob to keep working with him, and that's why he did this, so that he could Jacob for another 7 years. Well, during that second 7 years is when 13 really, no, 12, 11 sons and 1 daughter are going to be born to him in that first 7 years. A couple things I want us to understand as we go through this is the difference between Rachel and Leah. And you got to look carefully to see this. It says that, well, here it is, verse 30. He loved Rachel more than Leah. Yehovah, in the next verse, said that Leah was unloved, so he opened up her womb, but Rachel was barren. Leah always calls and refers to Jacob as my ish. Here it is. It says my husband, verse 32. It says my husband in verse 34. My ish, my man is really what it's saying. She got 4 sons in this chapter. In the next chapter, Rachel begins to show her attitudes towards her sister. Rachel envied her sister, it says in 30 verse 1. So she is going to, it says, give Jacob, where is it? Give Jacob a woman. She says she gave him Bilhah, her maid, as a woman. Not as a wife. It says wife in Torah, but she's not a wife. She is a shivka. She is a woman who's going to provide a son, hopefully. She did too, for Jacob. Rachel never calls Jacob Ishi, my man. Never. Not once in here. So she gave Jacob Bilhah for a woman. She gave Jacob, that woman, gave him Dan and Naphtali. Leah stopped bearing. She bore the 4. Didn't do any more, missed a year, I guess. And so she gave her maid, Zilpah. And she says he gave her to Jacob as a woman, for a woman is what it's talking about. Not a wife, a woman. She gives him Gad and Yasher. She, Leah, says, but she said to her, is it a small matter that you have taken my Ishi? She's talking about Ishis, her master, her man. Remember, a woman's man is her Adonai, her Baal. Strong term. In Proverbs 31, the woman of worth, it talks about her Baal shall greatly trust in her master. Stronger term than even Adonai, which can be translated as master as well. She says, my Ishi. And we have to understand my Ishi is the same as a Baal or a Adonai, an Adonai. But we're talking about mandrakes. So they make a deal. Leah's going to get Jacob for the evening. And it says, Leah said, Elohim has given me my wages because I have given my maid to my to my Ishi, for my Ishi. So she called his name Ishkar. Then again, she calls him my Ishi again. She's going to get Zebulon and then Diana. Here's again Rachel attitude towards her sister. It's a competition. Remember, she's the one who's beautiful. It says, great body, nice face. I forget exactly how they said that. But here she is. I have wrestled with my sister, and indeed I have prevailed. Because Bilhah gave her Dan and Naphtali. You know, you can have a woman who's beautiful on the outside, but lacks the spiritual structure on the inside to really be a good woman. We're going to see today that Rachel's going to steal her father's idols when they leave. Oh my gosh. It's going to result in her death. Just less than 2 years later. Oh, there's many things that we have to see that we don't see. Jacob came here penniless, and he left. Look what it says here. He left at the end of what we talked about last week. Thus, the man became exceedingly prosperous, had large flocks, female and male servants, camels and donkeys. He was extremely wealthy, sons, daughters. He had, it says prosperous, silver and gold. Well, that's where we're going to pick it up today, but we're going to begin with Yasher. So bear with me. I don't know if I left a Yasher in the right spot. No, I didn't. I got to go back to that. This is what we're going to cover today, and then hopefully do a chapter of Torah as well. Here's where we're going to start. In the 7th year, Jacob's service, which he had served Laban, was completed. And Jacob said to Laban, 7th year, by the way, that makes Jacob 84. He's going to take the girls when they're 28 years old. He's 84 years old. He's 56 years older than they are. Was completed. And Jacob said to Laban, give me my woman, my Ishi. Talking about Rachel. for the days of my service are fulfilled. And Laban did so. And Laban and Jacob assembled all the people of the place, and they made a feast. And in the evening, Jacob came to the house. And afterwards, Laban came to the house. And afterwards, Jacob came there with the people of the feast. And Laban extinguished all the lights that were in the house. Oh, there's some extra information that we haven't gotten before. Jacob said unto Laban, wherefore dost thou do this thing to us? Laban said, such is the custom to act in this land. I'd say, liar, liar, pants on fire. He wants to get Jacob to work for him for another 7 years because he's done so well. He realizes that the blessing of Yehovah is on Jacob's work. Afterwards, Laban took his daughter Leah, and he brought her to Jacob. And he came to her, and Jacob did not know that it was Leah. Why? I think for a couple reasons. I've already mentioned they're twins. In the dark, it would be a lot tougher to tell. Like I say, a twin, my ex and her sister, they act alike. They move alike. They have so many subtle things that there are so many similarities. And in the dark, it would be pretty tough. Now, were they identical twins? I don't know. But it was dark. Could Leah have said, by the way, I'm Leah, not Rachel, just so you know? Yes. Could that be part of the reason that Jacob loved Rachel more than he loved Leah? You know, I wonder. There's things, other circumstances that we forget about. Obviously being dark. He couldn't see her. And if she's quiet, I suppose it could happen. Jacob doesn't need to be drunk. Afterwards, Laban took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he came to her. Jacob did not know she was Leah. And Laban came to his daughter Leah, and Leah gave his daughter Leah his maid, his Shifka Zilpah, as a handmaid. And all the people of the feast knew that what Laban had done to Jacob, but they did not tell the thing to Jacob. All the neighbors came that night to Jacob's house, and they ate and drank and rejoiced, and they played before Leah upon timbrels and would dance. And they responded before Jacob, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. What does that mean? I wonder if it means it's Leah. It's Leah. Could be. And Jacob heard their words, but did not understand their meaning. But he thought such might be the custom of the land. Boy, he's really at a disadvantage. Didn't he learn anything in this first 7 years? Did he ever attend a wedding in this first 7 years to know some of the customs of the land? Was he gullible? I don't know. And the neighbors spoke these words before Jacob during the nights, and all the lights that were in the house of Laban at night had been extinguished. And in the morning, when daylight appeared, Jacob turned to his woman, and he saw, and behold, there was Leah, that had been lying in his bosom. And Jacob said, behold, now I know what the neighbors said last night. Leah, they said, and I knew it not. That's why I think it's Leah. It's Leah. And Jacob called unto Laban and said to him, what is this that thou didst unto me? Surely I served thee for Rachel. Why did thou deceive me and didst give me Leah? Well, I know It says Laban knew that Jacob knew that with Jacob in his service, he was blessed by Yehovah. This was Laban's way to get Jacob to continue in service for yet another 7 years. This is a trick. He's being manipulated, but you know what? Yehovah is using this to bless Jacob. Remember, 20 years later, he was broke. Now he's going to be a rich man. Rich in cattle, rich in finances, rich in family. And Laban answered Jacob, saying, "It is not done in this place to give the younger before the elder. Now therefore, if thou desirest to take her sister likewise, take her unto thee for service, which thou wilt serve me another 7 years." So he did, and it was going to be it'd be a week. In a week he gets to take Rachel physically. And Jacob did so, and he took Rachel for a woman, and he served Laban 7 more years. And Jacob also came to Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah. And Laban gave her his Shivka Bilhah for a handmaid. Leah got Zilpah, Rachel got Bilhah. And when Yehovah saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb. When Yehovah saw that Leah was unloved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And she conceived and bore Jacob 4 sons in those days. And these are their names. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah. And afterwards, she left bearing. They're going through the birth of the sons way faster than Torah did. And at that time, Rachel was barren. She had no offspring. And Rachel envied her sister. There it is again, her attitude towards her sister. You don't see that attitude going the other way from Leah. Like I said, beauty is only skin deep. A man needs to find a woman who, I always look at it this way. I don't care how pretty, how young, how beautiful. Well, I said pretty. Young, beautiful, talented, educated a woman is. I want a woman who is submissive, as bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. My woman doesn't go where I don't want her to go, doesn't say what I don't want her to say, doesn't do what I don't want her to do. She's me. We work together. And I see that in Leah when she calls Jacob my Ishi, my man, over and over and over again. She is he. Rachel, not so much. When Rachel saw that she bare no sons to Jacob, she took her handmaid Bilhah, and she took her handmaid, and she bare Jacob 2 sons. She gave her maid. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she also took her handmaid, and she gave her to Jacob for a woman. For a woman. Not a wife, for a woman. And Jacob also came to Zilpah, and she also bore Jacob 2 sons, Gad and Yasher. Leah again conceived and bare Jacob in those days 2 sons and 1 daughter. And these are their names, Issachar, Zebulun, and their sister Diana. Rachel was still barren in those days, and Rachel prayed unto Yehovah at that time. This is something that I find interesting. In Torah, you don't really get to see a woman praying to Yehovah and Yehovah answering the woman. Generally, you see, like Rebecca. She had the twins in her womb. She was searching Yehovah, why is she having these problems? And she said, I forget how they say it, prayed to Yehovah, searched for Yehovah, looked for an answer from Yehovah. She did it by going to Shem, Eber, and Abraham. And they're the ones who answered the prayer through them for her. And that's how you see it. When I forget what Samuel's mom's name was, she prayed, and it was the priest who heard her pray and said, let it be done unto you. Here, Rachel's praying to Yehovah at that time. It looks like Yehovah is actually answering her. I think that's interesting. And she said, oh, Yehovah Elohim. She didn't say my Elohim. Who's her Elohim? Jacob's her Elohim. He's the leader. He's the one who gives her the instructions on what she's supposed to do, where she's supposed to go, what she's supposed to say. Ooh, I know, fighting words for some people. Remember me and visit me, I beseech thee, for now my Ishi, there she says, my husband, will cast me off. She's saying it now when she's worried about losing him. For I have borne him no sons. Now, Yehovah Elohim, hear my supplication before thee, and see my affliction, and give me sons like one of the handmaids, that I may no more bear my reproach. And Elohim heard her and opened her womb. And Rachel conceived and bore a son, and she said, Yehovah heard her. It says Yehovah heard her. Okay, that's interesting. Like I say, I don't see it in Torah, but this is good. And Yehovah has taken away my reproach. She called his name Joseph, saying, may Yehovah add to me another son. Jacob was 91 years old when she bore him. If Jacob is 91, and this is 7 years later, remember he was 84. No, 80. He was 77, 84. He was 84. They were 28. Now she is 35. This makes the girls 35. Here's my note. Here. No, that's not the note. There it is. It says, this makes the girls 35. They've been married 7 years. Benjamin's not going to be born for another 10 years. About 4 years after Jacob leaves Haran. Remember, Rachel is going to die at the birth of Benjamin. What does my other notes say here? Oh, yeah, here. And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her. I guess it does say it in Torah. Elohim listened to her and opened her womb. How come Jacob didn't pray for Rachel? Remember, she tried to blame Jacob for her not having sons. Yet he's having sons with all the other women. It's obviously not him. It's her. He was a little ticked. Or in fact, here he says, and she conceived and bore a son. No, that's not it. He said to her, am I in the place of Elohim? This is something that you're having problems with, not me. But could he have prayed to Elohim for her? Why didn't he? I don't know. And Elohim remembered Rachel and listened to her and opened her womb, and she conceived and bore a son and said, Elohim has taken away my reproach. Okay, well, we have that pretty much what's going on here. At that time, Jacob's mother raped Rebekah. Now, Rebekah, if he's 91, Rebekah is 30 years older than Jacob, which makes her 121. If she's 121 and Jacob is 30 years older than her, Isaac is 30 years older than her, that makes him 151. Rebekah, at 121, is going to die at 133. That's 12 years from now. And Isaac is going to die at 180, which is 29 years. 29 years from now. Yeah, she's 30 when they had the twins. No, that doesn't make sense. She was 30. Rebecca was 30 no, not the twins, Michael. That's a bad note. When she had, no, they're twins. Jacob and Esau are twins, aren't they? There's twins too. I forget. Okay. So here is Rebecca. At that time, Jacob's mother, Rebecca, sent her nurse, Deborah. Remember, Deborah and Rebecca came with Eliezer from Haran. Deborah was the daughter of Uz, and Rebecca was the sister of Laban, the daughter of Bethuel. Oh, here it is. Deborah, the daughter of Uz. Yeah. And two of Isaac's servants to Jacob. They came to Jacob to Haran, and they said to him, Rebekah has sent us to thee that thou shalt return to thy father's house, to the land of Canaan. And Jacob hearkened unto them in this which his mother had spoken. He's going to go back. It sounds like at that time, the other 7 years which Jacob served Laban for Rachel were completed. Again, he's 91. It was at the end of 14 years that he dwelt in the land of Haran that Jacob said to Laban, give me my women and send me away that I may go to my land for behold, my mother did send unto me from the land of Canaan that I should return to my father's house. And Laban said unto him, no, he doesn't want him to leave. He's blessed when Jacob is with him. He's had another very prosperous 7 years. But things are about to change. Remember, Yehovah made a promise to Jacob at Bethel that he would make him exceedingly prosperous, including sons and wealth and animals. He's got the sons, but he's missing the wealth at this time. Laban still believes that he's going to be blessed as long as he has Jacob working for him. Things are about to change. Laban's not going to let him go, doesn't want him to go. Here's what he says. Not so, I pray. If I have found favor in thy sight, do not leave me. Appoint me thy wages, I will give them and remain with me. Remember, he's not yet received wages from Laban. All he's received his daughters. And Jacob said unto him, this is what thou shalt give me for wages, that I shall this day pass through thy flocks and take away from them every lamb. We're talking about young animals that is speckled and spotted, such as are brown amongst the sheep and amongst the goats. The flocks are sheep and goats. Ze'un are flocks. It gets translated as flocks, but we're talking about sheep and goats together. And if thou wilt do this thing for me, I will return and feed thy flocks and keep them as at first. So this is the deal they're making. And Laban did so. And Laban removed from his flocks all that Jacob had sod and gave them to him. Jacob placed all that he had removed from Laban's flock into the hands of his sons. His sons. How old are his sons? His eldest, at best, Reuben, is 6 years old. These are some pretty young boys, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. He had 4 right away. The other ones are really young. And Jacob was feeding the remainder of Laban's flock. So he stayed with one flock, and 2 miles away, 3 miles away was his flock being cared for by his sons. And when the servants of Isaac, which he had sent unto Jacob, saw that Jacob would not return with them to the land of Canaan, to his father, they then went away from him, and they returned home to the land of Canaan. Deborah remained with Jacob in Haran, and she did not return with the servants of Isaac in the land of Canaan. And Deborah resided with Jacob's women and children in Haran. She's going to be kind of a nurse, as she was a nurse to Rebekah. So she's going to be a nurse now to help these women raise these boys. And Jacob served Laban 6 years longer. At the end of 6 years, that will be 20 years that he's been working with Laban. And Jacob served Laban 6 years. And when the sheep brought forth, Jacob removed from them such as were speckled and spotted, as he determined with Laban. And Jacob did so at Laban's in his area for 6 years. You know, it doesn't say anything about this willow bark and this other bark, hickory bark and willow bark, that he put into the troughs in Torah. I always felt like that was a little bit sneaky. In Yasher, he's not doing these kinds of things. Jacob removed from them such as were speckled and spotted, as he had determined with Laban. And Jacob did so at Laban's for 6 years, and the man increased abundantly, and he had cattle and maidservants and menservants, camels and asses. Yes, he's getting very wealthy. Look what it says now. And Jacob had 200 drove of cattle. I'm not sure what a drove is. Maybe it's a group of 200 of cattle, something like that. A herd, 200 herd of cattle. And his cattle were large size and a beautiful appearance and very productive. Productive, does that mean they have a lot of meat on them? Does that mean they give a lot of milk, perhaps? And all the families of Adam's seed. Adam's seed. Isn't he one of Adam's seed? No, he's not. He's Elohim's seed. He's a spiritually born man. All of the families of Adam's seed, this is all the men on the earth, desired to get some of the cattle of Jacob, for they were exceedingly prosperous. And many of Adam's seed came to procure some of Jacob's flock, and Jacob gave them a sheep for a manservant, or a maidservant, or for an ass, or a camel. And whatever Jacob desired from them, they gave him. He had favor with all of Adam's seed. And Jacob obtained riches and honor and possessions by means of these transactions with Adam's seed. And Laban's seed envied him of this honor. Ooh, things are beginning to change. Things in River City aren't what they used to be. And in the course of time, he heard the words of Laban's son saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's. And of that which was our father's, he has acquired all his glory. What was Laban's has been transferred, not all of it, but a lot of it has been transferred to Jacob. Well, now it says, read Genesis 31. I want to get through Genesis 31 today. We may go a little bit longer. I apologize. We might be another 45 minutes, which take us close to an hour and a half. It's too good. I want you to hear this. Please bear with me. What we're going to read in 31, we're going to see what happens in Yasher next week. But let's look at 31 today. Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons. And Jacob, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's. And from what was our father's, he has acquired all this wealth. Keep in mind, these guys wouldn't even exist. Remember, the oldest one that they could possibly have is 20 years old, because he didn't have any sons when Jacob got there. Now, 20 years later, they're jealous. But they wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Jacob, because their father only had 2 daughters. Jacob saw the countenance of Laban, and indeed it was not favorable towards him as before. He always saw Jacob as his good luck piece to bring him wealth. So he's seeing a difference, and now Yehovah is going to talk to him. And Yehovah said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your family, and I will be with you. You know, the land of his fathers used to be Haran. Jacob left the land of his birth and his land there in Haran Abram left his land there when he went to the promised land, where Yehovah said, I will give you this land and the seed, and you'll inherit it. Now he's saying, return to the land of your fathers and to your family, and I will be with you. I will be with thee. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock. Notice he did not call Bilhah and Zilpah. He called Rachel and Leah. They are his women. The other 2 are their shifka. He used them for a woman, but they are not his woman. Big difference. And said to them, I see your father's countenance, that is not favorable towards me as before. But Yehovah, my father, has been with me. Yehovah, my father, has been with me. And you know that with all my might, I have served your father. Yes, they see that. He's always been faithful to Laban to do what he said he would do. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But Elohim did not allow him to hurt me. It sounds like Laban, the very first one, He worked for 7 years for Rachel, and he got Leah. Changed his wages. Did things like that 10 times. He goes on. That your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but Elohim did not allow him to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be yours wages, then the flocks bore speckled. If he said thus, the streak shall be your wages, then they bore streaked. So he changed things around. And Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. Laban's the one that made the changes. Every time he made a change, it worked in Jacob's benefits. And it happened at that time when the flocks conceived that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and gray spotted. Don't know what that means. And, here. No, that's not it. I guess it's coming. Yeah, here it is. Then a messenger of Elohim. Here, this is what it says. The Elohim's messenger spoke to me in a dream. The Elohim. Not Elohim's messenger, the Elohim's messenger spoke to me in a dream. And Jacob said, Hineni, here I am. And he lifted up, and he said, lift up your eyes and now and see all the rams that leap on the flocks are streaked and speckled and gray spotted. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to thee. Yehovah saw that Laban was trying to take advantage of Jacob, but Yehovah worked it out in such a way that it didn't work to Laban's advantage. It worked to Jacob's advantage. Now in 31, it says again, it said messengers of the Elohim's messenger. Now it says, I am Ha'el. Ha'el. This is what it says. Ha'el. I am Ha'el. That says El. This before it says Ha. If I can get it. I can't get it. There it is. Ha. That says Ha'el. I am Ha'el of Bethel. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now arise, get out of this land and return to the land of thy family. This land is not your land. The land down there, that's your land. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, is there still any portion of inheritance for us in our father's house? No, there's none. Listen to what they say. Are we not considered strangers by him? When you see words like strangers, foreigners, ger, look it up. This particular word says foreigners, no kraut, foreigners. It's got the ot on it. Maybe that's for women, I suppose. No kriot. Maybe that's just one of those ancient words in Hebrew that uses the ot ending, regardless. They're strangers. They're strangers to their fathers. For he sold us and also completely consumed our money. Yeah, he sold them to Jacob for the 7 years that he worked for each of them. For all these riches which Elohim had taken from our father are really ours and our sons. Sons. There it is. Our sons. Now then, whatever Elohim said to thee, do it. Then Jacob arose and set his sons and his women on camels. He's slipping out the back deck. And he carried away all his livestock and all his possessions, wealth, which he had gained, his acquired livestock, which he had gained in Haran, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen. Look at this. Rachel. It's Rachel. Beauty's only skin deep. Rachel does not have the continence. You know, it's said that Leah had beautiful eyes. We're talking about the depth of character that comes out of the eyes. I really believe Leah was a far better woman for Jacob, and I don't know if he ever really understood that. Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's. Oh, next week, I don't want to take time for it today, but we're going to talk about what these idols look like. Oh, it's gruesome. And Jacob stole away, unknown to Laban the Syrian, and that he did not tell him that he intended to flee. Ooh, you have to have some serious concerns about your father-in-law that you got to slip out the back jack in the middle of the night. He's afraid of him. He's afraid of his sons. They call him Laban the Syrian. They don't call him Laban the son of Bethuel. They don't call him Laban the sister of Rebecca. No. They call him Laban the Syrian. Why do they call him Laban the Syrian? He's got idols in his house. Who does he serve? Does he serve Yehovah? Or does he serve the idols? Well, he serves the idols. Apparently, so does Rebecca. Torah does not record the birth of Laban. Why not? It says in Yasher that Bethuel's sons were Sekar, Laban, and their sister Rebecca. So he fled with all that he had. He arose and crossed the river and headed towards the Mount of Gilad. Where is the Mount of Gilad? Oh, you know what? I didn't open this. I apologize. I'm going to take a moment to open it. It won't take long. I apologize. But I really want you to see what part of the world we're talking about. Gilad, Mount Gilad, is the same area that we call Gilead. Manasseh is going to inherit this land. And I forget, there was one other son that was going to inherit it. I need to open this to get the correct map, main map. And we're talking about this area right here. This is Gilead. This area and this area. And if we open another map, I'll open it for just a second because I want you to see this. This is another map that goes along with it. Here's Mizpah. Here's Mizpah. Is this the river that he crossed? I always assumed that the river that he crossed was the what was the name of the river? I forget. Here, I'll get it. Way up here. Euphrates. I thought it was the Euphrates was the river that he crossed. But it might just be this river down here in Gilad. And like I say, there's Mizpah, there's Gilad. They put Gilad question mark. This is Ramoth Gilead. But it's Gilad. It's Gilad. Let's go back to I don't know if I had 100% or 75% or what it was. Here's Mizpah. So I want you to see, we're talking about this area, Makhanayim. We're going to talk about Makhanayim next week. Oh, that's a really interesting two camps. Who are the two camps? You'll never get it in Torah. You got to read Yasher to understand who the two camps are. Well, let me continue. The mountains of Gilad. So he fled with all that he had and arose and crossed the river, I think it's the Euphrates, and headed towards the mountain of Gilead. They say Gilead. It's Har-Galad. Har-Galad. It's actually the mountain of Galad when it comes down to it. Here, I think I might even name it here. The Galad Mountain. The Galad Mountain. That's what it is. The Galad Mount. And Galad, we're going to see means heap. Oh, that's interesting too, because of what's going to happen here. A lot of these places get their names after it's happened, but they give us the name before it happens in Torah quite often. This is one of those cases. Let me continue. It says, and Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled, and he took his brethren, Buzz, all those gang that were there with him, and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook them in Har-Galad, the Galad mountain, the Mount of the Galad. Again, the Mount of Galad doesn't exist yet. They're going to create the Mount of Galad. And Elohim had come to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night. So he's on his way. Yehovah is going to give him a dream and said to him, be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good or bad. Oh, heard that before? Look what it said. Remember when Eliezer came to Bethuel and Laban for Laban's sister Rebekah to take her back to Isaac with him. And they said, we cannot speak to thee, Eliezer, either good or bad. We cannot say she can go or she can't go. So what did they do? They talked to Rebekah and asked her, will you go with this man? Because I think Yehovah spoke to them. We cannot speak to thee, neither good or bad. She said, I will go. And that was the end of it. Yehovah speaking to him in a dream. Gee, if you have Yehovah speaking into a dream saying don't do anything good or bad, maybe you should be pretty conservative in the things you're going to say to Jacob and do to Jacob. Oh, Laban is not a good man. He's Laban the Syrian. Let's find out. So Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount. And Laban with his brethren pitched in the Galad Mount as well. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done that you have stolen away unknown to me and carried my daughters like captives taken by the sword? Why did you flee secretly and steal away from me and not tell me, for I might have sent you away with joy and songs and timbrel and harp? Might have. I don't think he would have. No, he would have prevented Jacob from leaving. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have done foolishly in so doing. It is in my power to harm you. Yeah, I suppose it is. He's got little boys with him. He does have men servants. Jacob does. Don't get him wrong. Don't think he's weak. It might be a good battle. But Elohim, your father spoke to me. Elohim of your father spoke to me. Elohim of your father, not his Elohim. Elohim of the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night saying, be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good or bad. Isn't it interesting that he had a dream that Yehovah spoke to him? Really to protect Jacob, that he's going to tell Jacob about the dream? I'm surprised. And now you have surely gone because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my Elohim? My Elohim isn't Jacob's Elohim, his Elohim. No, he serves idols. Then Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take my daughters from me by force. Yeah, he might have tried. With whomever you find your Elohim. Listen, this is Jacob talking, you guys. With whomever you find your Elohim, do not let him live. Who took the Elohim? Rebecca. Do not let him live. I said, Rachel's going to die in 1.5 years. I wonder if the words that came out of Jacob's mouth, of course, her actions was really the root of that, wasn't it? Brought about her death. I wonder. He says, with whomever you find your gods, do not let him live. In the presence of our brethren, identify what is yours and take it with thee. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. No, he didn't know. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, and into the 2 maids' tents, but he did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Do you notice how the man has his tent? That's the master bed, the master suites. And then the women all have their own tents. That's how it's supposed to be. Now Rachel had taken the household idols, put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise before you, for I am in the manner of a woman, for the manner of a woman is with me. She's in her menses. I can't get up, Dad. Yehovah says, you shall rise before the gray-headed and honor the presence of an old man and fear your Elohim. I am Yehovah. Well, he's saying that to men. He's not saying that to women, but she's his woman, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. It's incumbent on her as well, especially if Jacob says it. And she said to her, I said that. Let me go here. 36. Then Jacob was angry and rebuked Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass? What is my sin? That you have hotly pursued me, although you have searched all my things. What part of thy household things hast thou found? Yet it is set it before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge between us both. These 20 years I have been with thee. Thy ewes, thy female goats have not miscarried their young. I have not eaten the rams of thy flock. That which was torn by beasts, I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was. In the day the drought consumed me, the frost by night, and my sheep departed from my eyes. Thus I have been in thy house 20 years. I've never stolen from you. I have served you for 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flock. And you have changed my wages 10 times. Ooh, he's putting it in a different perspective, isn't he? Unless Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. Elohim has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands and rebuked you, it's understood, rebuked last night. Jacob has been taken advantage of. He's not been treated fairly. He's gone the extra mile. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, listen, it's like he's defensive now. These daughters are my daughters. Oh, really? And how would that be after you sold them to me after 7 years of labor? And these children are my children. This flock is my flock. All that you see is mine. Oh, really? Just because it says it in Torah doesn't make it true. You've got to use a discerning eye and understanding. But what can I do this day to these, my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? He doesn't even say Jacob born them. They have born. Now, therefore, come, let us make a covenant. Let us make a barit, a cutting. Let us make a cutting, thee and I, and let it be a witness between you and me. A cutting is a barit. Barit, a cutting. This is what we do at Passover, is we make a cutting. The cutting says, if you fail to keep up this end of the bargain, or I fail to keep up the bargain, what's happening to this animal in the slaughter and us both eating of it is going to happen to us. That's what a barit is all about. When we come into covenant with Yehovah, it's forever. There's no going back. If you don't keep the covenant from year to year, you get kicked out of Israel. Don't want to get kicked out of Israel. Means your woman gets kicked out of Israel too. He goes on. So Jacob took a stone and set up a stone, and set up a pillar. And Jacob said to his brethren, gather stones. This is the mount that they're making. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. This is a very large mount of the Galad. Mount HaGalad. And Laban called it, well, here, this is good. First, let's see what it says here. This is Gal. Gal means heap of stones, dung. We're talking about stones in this case. Here is, Laban called it Yegar Sahaduta, which means heap of the testimony. A cairn east of Jordan. This is where Gilead gets its name, from this heap of stones. I really didn't understand that before. And Laban said, this heap is a witness, this Gal, is a witness between thee and me this day. Laban said that. Therefore, its name shall be Galid. Also, Mizpah. So we showed you where Mizpah was on the map. Because he said, may Yehovah watch between thee and me when we are absent from one another. Oh my goodness. watch between thee and me. He's like he's going to call a curse down on himself. You don't know it yet, but he's calling a curse down on himself. May Yehovah watch between thee and me when we are absent from one another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other women besides my daughters, whatever that has to mean with it, although no man is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me, thou and me. And Laban said to Jacob, here is this heap, and here is this pillar which I have placed between thee and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness that I will not pass beyond this heap. This is Laban saying this to Jacob, that I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap and this pillar to me for harm. This is the covenant that separates Jacob and his family, his sons, really, his seed, from the lands of his wife's father and the promised land. He's going back to the land of his fathers. That's Galid, meaning heap or cairn. Cairn is also a heap of stones. For Haran. Almost done. And Elohim of Abraham. Listen to this. The Elohim of Abraham. This is still Laban speaking. The Elohim of Abraham. The Elohim of Nahor. Remember, Abraham is Jacob's grandfather. Nahor is his grandfather. The Elohim of their fathers judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. It now says, then Jacob, they said, offered a sacrifice. No, this is not offered a sacrifice. It's the same word. It is the word, I have to look it up. I'm spacing on it right now. Zavak. One is zavak being used as a verb, and the second is zavak being used as a noun. He slaughtered a slaughter. He slaughtered a slaughter. You slaughter the slaughter when you do the Passover and you eat the Passover. You eat what you're going to eat, and you throw the rest in the fire as a sweet aroma to Yehovah. That's his portion. That's how you do a slaughter. Especially when you're doing a covenant like this. And Jacob slaughtered a slaughter on the mount of stones, and called his brother to eat bread. And they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. I'm not going to go there. Let's continue. This is the last verse here. And early in the morning, Laban arose, kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. Sounds like Laban's a pretty nice guy, doesn't he? He finally settled down, and now everything's going to be all right. Well, we've got some things to find out next time. Oh my goodness. We're going to find out why it's called Makanayim, two camps. I put on my note here, Laban the Syrian is such a hypocrite. He will send that day, he will send his brethren south of the Haran, south of where he's not supposed to do to cause any harm to one another. The covenant that he just cut with Jacob, he's going to send him south to Esau. He will send his brethren south this very day to tell Esau that Jacob is returning. Well, look what it says in Yasher 36. Remember, I said you cut a covenant. If either one of you breaks it, It's going to happen to you. As it was to the lamb, you're going to have it happen to you. Yasher 36, and Laban the Syrian died in those days, for Elohim smote him, because he transgressed the covenant, the cutting that existed between him and Jacob, by doing this very thing, sending these men south to cause all this problems that is going to happen in this next chapter. I put a covenant between a man and Elohim, and the covenant between a man and his woman. They're similar. A man circumcises himself, sheds blood, and enters into a covenant with Elohim, with the cutting, with the zavik, slaughter of a slot. How did I say it on that verse? Jacob slaughtered a slaughter by slaughtering the slaughter, the Passover lamb or goats. That's how we come into covenant with Yehovah. This makes sense. If you make a covenant with Yehovah, what is more important than that? Making a covenant with the Elohim of the universe. Any reason why in the Constitution we have freedom of religion? Because you can't usurp that. You can't usurp that. It doesn't happen. But there's a covenant between a man and his woman as well. The woman, just like we make a covenant with Yehovah, a woman makes a covenant with us. How does she do it? By the shedding of her blood, by the breaking of her hymen. That's the covenant. Now, many women have had that happen already. We don't live in a society any longer where women don't go and fool around with other men before they're married. We don't respect marriage, the joining of a woman to her man. Remember, a woman came from her man, bone of his bone, came out of his side. And when a woman comes to a man, she becomes bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. She's he. This is the covenant that a woman makes with her man to become his. And it should be every bit as eternal as the covenant that the man makes with his creator. We don't understand. We lose sight of what's going on. And it affects the relationships that we've had. But, we've been breaking down the family for years, probably 100 years, more, to the point where, we've got women's liberation and all the other ridiculous things that we have in the earth. Well, a lot of that is changing right now. Thankfully, Father, you're so good. We're going to pick this up next week, and we're going to find out what happens when these men go south. Oh my goodness. There's going to be very interesting consequences for this. Well, we'll see you next time. Sorry this went so long, but I'm so glad you joined me. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Y'all come back now. You hear?